morning and welcome to Ag Talking Raw, where I talk raw about agriculture and other nonsensical things that are going on in my life. Yeah, right? Sounds like fun. Haven't done one of these in a while. As a matter of fact, I have done a few of them. I just never posted them because they get off onto some weird rant or whatever. But it's the day before, it's the day before nothing. It's Sunday and I have to go to church, so I figured I would do one of these before I absolutely had to get dressed. I showered, I shaved, and I'm pretty much ready to go. I figured I'd just do a little bit of an update here as to how things are going, getting ready for harvest of corn and soybeans. We did finally get rid of the wheat. I do have some wheat left in the grain bin, which will be put on for cover crop, and when I take off the first corn. Soybeans will not be coming off until probably early to mid-November, just because they were planted in July. As you know, they were planted in July. So those beans are phenomenal for being planted in July. I mean, absolutely phenomenal. And they are turning now. They're just starting to really turn. They were a Group 3 and Group 2 soybean. When I went and told the agronomist what I was going to be doing, he's like, "Oh, Wesley," he says, that's like a hit and miss here in this area. I was like, "Yeah, but I'm going to turn the wheat. I'm going to chemically turn it. I'll be a week to a week and a half, 2 weeks ahead of schedule." He says, "Well, if you're going to do that," he said, "then fine, you do that. You'll be able to plant this, in June, before the July 5th. Like, okay, yeah, that's great. So, excuse me. So, that was the plan. Glyphosate was bought. Everything was ready to rock and roll. We went into 6 weeks of zero rain. And I'll tell you what, I was like a dog shitting razor blades. I didn't know whether I would be here, even able to pay my electric bill by the end of this summer. It was pretty intense there for about 3 of the 6 weeks of no rain. And I'm not joking. When I say no rain, I mean it was zero. The ground got hard, really hard. Now, where I had started the Regen Ag program, not as hard. Was able to plant perfectly. Just went right in, no problems. But the corn didn't grow, as you know. It just kind of sat there. I had corn that was this tall with roots that were a foot long, 9 inches long. I measured them. I had some really impressive roots, and if you look back on it, some of these videos that I did, I would dig up these roots and show them. And, a corn plant that's 9 inches tall with 2 to 4 roots that were 9 inches deep were pretty impressive, but there was nothing up high. There had been some roots that had followed the seed trench, but for the most part, everything went down, which is a plus. It's a good thing. It's not a bad thing at all for even just an average year for temperature and rainfall. But we just didn't have that. It was cold. It was dry. It was just miserable. So the roots that were following the seed trench, which each one of them had like this caterpillar-looking thing that went maybe 3 or 4 inches and then connected with its neighbor's roots, but they were like fat like this, all full of hairy roots, looking for whatever nutrients that they could scavenge there, because let's face it, the roots that were 9 inches deep, they were just going for water. They didn't care. That corn did not care about pulling nutrient hardly at all, just whatever it could get out of my secret sauce and my in-furrow secret sauce combination of liquid fish, secret sauce, zinc that I had put in the row. I'm gonna up that. I'm probably gonna double that this coming year, because it worked so well on an anemic rate. So instead of putting 10 gallons to the acre, I'll probably put 15 to 20. Yeah, it's going to take a lot more time to fill and do all that, but I really, really, really think it's totally worth it in the long run. There's a few things that I learned this spring about my corn planter that I will be updating and upgrading for this coming spring. and I haven't even harvested the crop yet. So with that, you know, with the way this spring went, we didn't know whether we were going to have the money to just even be here. I was really kind of scared. So I held off on a combine last year because of drought. This spring, I was thinking I'm going to buy a new combine before wheat harvest. But then this dry weather, I said, forget it. Just going to run the old combine through the wheat. And, you know, if I even have a crop of corn, I'll just keep the old combine. And I'll do 1,315 acres of corn with a 6-row head on a TR96 that was built in 1991. Would have done it, you know, I would have done it. But anyway, during the wheat harvest, we started to get some rain, and I planted the soybeans through, and I planted 115 acres of corn, which brought me to 1315. But I did plant 230 acres of soybeans, 230 plus acres of soybeans, quite a few acres of beans, and they're beautiful, by the way, looking really, really good. It's just a hit and miss. So the glyphosate never got on, obviously. The wheat died from the top down versus the bottom up. So if you don't know, wheat dies from the bottom up. The straw turns, and no, the top down. Wheat dies from the top down. It died from the top up this time. The straw was dead, so glyphosate would have done absolutely nothing. It was delayed because of the dry weather, and then we got some rain to finish it out, which was fine. Ended up with about 60 bushel to the acre, right around. It was a little more than 60 according to my calculations, but it was 60 bushel to the acre. I have about a semi-load left in that, well, half a semi-load left in that grain bin, which I'm going to clean, and I'm going to clean it to get the weed seed. There's no weeds in it, but weeds and fines and stuff like that, so I have a more pure seed to put out for cover crop, and I will buy some wheat if I need to. But I think I'm just going to buy rye for the more cover crop. I don't know if I'm going to be combining any wheat this coming year, but if I do, it's fine. One way or the other, I'll have to buy seed anyway. So anyways, the rain we had some problems with the combine. Couldn't get it to feed. If you watch those videos, it was just a pain in my ass. And then I ended up building parts for the grain platform to basically make. I bolted up the flexible part of it, and then it fed like a lean green fighting machine, lean yellow fighting machine. I mean, this thing really just chewed through the wheat pretty quickly. I had it set to blow more air than you would expect. I wanted it to blow the fine wheat seed out because I wanted a cover crop to come up through the soybeans. Now, of course, I had to spray, put my herbicide down, which was just glyphosate. I did use glyphosate, and before I planted those beans on a couple of one farm, I used dicamba. So before the beans were planted, I hit it with dicamba because there was some ragweed and some mare's tail that was coming up in it, and that worked wonderfully. So I went through and I sprayed the Roundup that I bought to kill the wheat so that I could get my beans in sooner. I sprayed that on, for my herbicide, and I have no weed problems at all in my soybeans. There's, but the wheat that's underneath there is just this fine, beautiful mat of cover crop, which is great. That's exactly what I was looking for. So what that does is it continues to do what it was supposed to do. Anyway, it continues to break down nutrients for next year, which a living root in the ground, multi-species in the ground, is actually good for your beans, good for your corn if you do it correctly. This coming year, I'm going to try and get some cover crop spread through standing corn. I really am going to do it. It's just not a matter of wanting to. I'm going to do it. I have to, so that everything works. So my herbicide program is going to be a little different this coming year, and hopefully everything works out the way I want it to, and life is good. Oats worked wonderfully too. The corn where I planted those oats this spring worked really good. Uh, so, anyways, back to the soybeans and planting through this wheat. I ended up in July planting corn in July. Can you believe that? So I planted a variety that was not really suitable for July planting. It was a 95-day corn, 97-day corn. I think it was the 97-day, 95 or 97-day corn, 97-day corn. 95-day corn that I had gotten because of the dry weather. I had to replant about 200 acres that didn't seem to do very well, which I thought I should have left it, but I didn't leave it. I could have left it, but it would have been less bushels than what I would have got if I replanted. I think I made the right decision there anyway, even though it's going to be a clown show to combine that stuff because of a couple of reasons, and I'll explain that later when I get into it on camera on the One Lonely Farmer channel. So that's just a whole nother thing, and I'll explain what I did, why I did it. And well, I think I've already talked about it. The reason I did it was because on this one farm, which was 170 acres, it was the mice came along, and because the seed had been in the ground for 16 days before we got enough rain to bring it up to sprout it, I planted it replanted the day before it rained, because I went along and you could see about every 6 inches, 6.5, 7 inches, something like that, a hole, and they had dug it up, and then I was digging where there wasn't holes, and the wire worms that were there, or I saw wire worms, they were eating the heart out of the seed. So I kind of had that mess to deal with, and I just made the executive decision to go ahead and replant, and I did. I planted about 230 acres, replanted 230 acres. I'm quite happy with the results. I mean, I've got ears that are small, but there's now, if you take 2 of those ears, there are 14 rows where the rows, 14 row, like 20 long each, at about a 55,000 plant population, which is insane. But where the rows were affected, where there wouldn't have been any corn, the ear is, 18 rows, some 20s, mostly 18s, 16s, and 18s. And they were 32 to 34 rows or kernels long on a 14, 16, 18. It's usually 16, 18s and some 20s. So I think, to be honest with you, that the double planted, replanted, not double planted, but replanted corn is actually going to outperform the field that was planted and no need to replant. But we'll find out, because my combine has a yield monitor, and it'll map it too. So I don't really care about that, to be quite honest with you. I'm 51 years old. I don't need all that newfangled shit to tell me what I'm getting. But you know what? It'll be nice to see it, and then I'll go into a field where I have been getting over 300 bushel, and it'll hit over 300 bushel, and then I'll go to the next field and it'll be like, oh, I'm only getting 240, huh? Or 180, which I'd be perfectly happy with 150 bushel yield average. That'll make my day. It'll make my day if I average over all 1,315 acres, 150 bushels. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think it's going to be higher, because everything that I have done, and I should probably go out and do a yield check and yield test and put it online, and everybody can say, oh, that's bullshit, that's only 120 bushel corn, just like they did the last 2 years that I did it. And it's like, I do this stuff to educate people, just educate or give them an idea of what's going on or what you can do in New Jersey. Yes, New Jersey. We're not in central Iowa, Indiana, Illinois, Minnesota, Missouri, none of these really big corn producing states. We're in the little old garden state of New Jersey. And, we can do some pretty phenomenal things here if you do it correctly. It's really easy to, excuse my language, fuck up here. Was talking to a guy yesterday, and he's like, it sounds to me like you're going to have really good yields on that. Is that ground good ground? Oh, I was talking to the guy I bought the grain auger off of yesterday. You must have good ground out there. I'm like, it's only good if you know what you're doing. You can take some really good farmers that reside to the north of us here and bring them down here to Kingwood ground and watch them fall flat on their face. Flat, like bam, hard broken teeth, busted nose, and their glasses are all askew like this. And you go just 10 miles to our north and they've got bumper crop year after year after year. It's because the ground is a little more forgiving up there. It's actually a lot more forgiving up there. I mean, you can fuck up pretty royally and still come out okay. I'm not saying that it doesn't take some skill. It does, but you got to know your ground. But Kingwood ground, I'm going to tell you, you have this. You see how thin that is? See how thin that right there is? That is the margin of error here in Kingwood. You go up there, you've got that right there, that margin of error. That was an airplane ticket. You've got that margin of error. You can put it in a little wet, no big deal. You can no-till it just as fine. You can no-till it wet. You can do a lot of stuff. You can plant it into dust and come out looking like you just got married to the Dallas Cowboys or just had an orgy with the Dallas Cowboys cheerleading team, that sort of thing. It really is more forgiving ground up there. I have some ground up there. I can tell you it's more forgiving. You get down here, not at all. You put that thing in and it's a little bit wet, your corn will just follow that seed trench and never get out. And you'll be like, what the hell? Just takes a little more skill and time to do it correctly. So, with that being said, nothing's easy here. Nothing's easy anywhere, but it's a little easier up in that direction. So, doing yield checks for me is basically advertising that, hey, there's really good ground in Kingwood Township, New Jersey. The reality is, it's not. It takes a lot. It's expensive ground to deal with. It's expensive because it's acidic, so you're constantly putting a liming product on, whereas other places is lime, calcium rich fields. You can have a good pH and low calcium and still have to put lime on. You put down, you can put down gypsum for calcium. That's exactly what I like to put on for calcium. And I have fields that you would put gypsum on because if you put lime or high calcium chloride or calcium whatever, high calcium lime or high magnesium lime, you could throw it all out of balance and fuck yourself up that way too. So it's just really tricky and expensive to farm here. But it is what it is, and it's where I live, it's what I know, and I can deal pretty good with what we're doing. Okay, pretty good. So the deer problem is another issue. But anyways, I bought the auger yesterday to go up to my wet bin. It is an 8-inch auger. I wanted a 10, but I got an 8. I will just run it a little faster with the. I'll put it on 1,000 RPM. Just run it, run it a little faster. I don't have a 750 RPM Ford. If I did, I would just put a Ford on there with a 750. That was something that Ford did. You had 540 and 750, which ran those augers quite well. I think it was a Ford 3000 that would run a 750. Anyway, it doesn't matter. I like running them fast anyway. Get that shit up in the bin and get on my way. It has a swing auger, so when I get I'm going to lease a walking floor or rent one. And I'll be able to just swing that thing onto the walking floor and send it up in there, and life will be good. And my step deck, or not my step deck, my come on, Wesley, think stupid, think. My walking floor over the hopper trailer. I'm talking hopper trailer. I can get it under the hopper trailer. The walking floor, I have my funnel there. That'll work perfectly for that because I can just maneuver it here and there, underneath it, so it'll be just fine. And I got to put new rubber around the top of it. I'm going to actually raise the rubber. It has this low rubber on it. I'm going to raise it up a little bit more so that it doesn't spill out and make a hell of a mess. You know, that's just what I'm going to do. But yeah, so we got that part of it done. I'm waiting on the auger build for the rest of it. In my video, not the last video, the video before on One Lonely Farmer, you saw that we had flipped the auger at the top of the dryer to feed from the fan side versus the the discharge side, and that's so it can come up out of that conical bin. And so I've got two augers being built specifically for what I'm going to do there, and it should work, you know, right? It should work. It should work just fine. Yeah, life will be good. This auger actually has a hydraulic ram to raise it and lower it. Awesome, right? That's pretty awesome if you ask me. It'll just, you just back it right up there, back it in with the tractor. You don't even have to unhook the tractor. As a matter of fact, I don't think you need to unhook the tractor at all. But, and I won't if I don't have to. So we've got that going on. What else do I have to say about that? Yeah, I don't know. I just gotta think about it. Yeah, so as far as harvesting corn, pulled a few ears yesterday. One good ear, I went in and I found the driest ear I could find, 32.5, 33.1. That's what it tested. I tested it twice. So it's about 35% moisture on a dry ear on pretty piss poor ground. But kernels that are, you know, more than a ½ inch long, I'm really pleased with what it looks like. Just some of the research that I've done and the secret sauce that I put on right where I put it is exactly where it needed to be. And it just fires that biology up, and the root systems looked perfect. Everything, mycorrhizal fungi all over those roots. And, you know, once we started to get rain, you know, and I'm kind of skipping all over the place, but, you know, after that dry spell went through and we started getting the rain, the corn that I planted through the wheat, it was so wet on that farm that it was drowning. Literally drowning. It inhibited its growth. Major league inhibited its growth. It wasn't very happy about it. Did not bale the straw on any of the wheat. On the wheat, I did that so that I would get that flush of potash, which promotes root health. If I'm probably going to grab my camera and go over with my shovel and dig up some soybean plants and show you what the nodules look like. And I could do that maybe today, just to show what the nodules look like, because these plants, even though the nitrogen fixing nodules, even though they're planted in July, I mean, they got a root mass and the tap roots that go pretty deep. I was really impressed. But the nitrogen affixing nodules that are on these plants is more than I've ever seen ever on any of the soybeans I've ever grown in my entire life. Now, there were some things that I put on those soybeans, you know, Penergetic products, all of them, Penergetic B, WV, Penergetic K, Penergetic P. That's what I put on there. BWV is for deer, Penergetic P is for the plant, and Penergetic K is for the compost or residue, in order to spur the microbiological growth in the soil. Don't buy bugs in a jug. If you want to go into regen agriculture, I'm going to tell you right now, a bug in a jug is a joke. They don't live in there for more than a small amount of time. I think they may be looking for quorum sensing, but it's not going to happen with a bug in a jug. So if they do get those bugs to survive, those biologicals, if they do get those bugs to survive, they're just food for what is in your soil. That's all that stuff is. I wouldn't buy into it, because in the same note, you know, the same company that's selling you the bug in a jug is probably going to sell you the fungicide application. And, you know, so it's we're going to spur biological health. And then the next thing you know, they're selling you, oh, you got to apply fungicide. So everything you gain with the mycorrhizal fungi, you know, say in your mycorrhizal fungi in your soybeans, because you need that. If you buy Rhizobum bacteria, don't buy the liquid, it's garbage. Same thing, bug in a jug. Buy the powder, the black peat moss, Rhizobum bacteria that, you usually buy. Buy the one with 3 different types. So that Rhizobum it's not bacteria, it's basically mycorrhizal fungi. The Rhizobum fungus, mycorrhizal fungi, Rhizobum bacteria, they all kind of work together. When you spray fungicide on that, you kill it. You kill it. Same thing with insecticides. There's a company that claims they're selling insecticide that I think it's Corteva. They sell insecticide that does not affect the beneficial insects. They may be selling you something that's not an insecticide. If you read it, you may understand what it is, and it could very well be what I am doing with my secret sauce. But I would definitely look into that. Beneficial insects are your friend, and when you spray pyrethroid or any kind of insecticide, you kill everything. You kill spiders, you kill ladybugs, you kill everything, you name it. You'll kill the spider mites, and you'll kill maybe you'll kill the spider mites, but the aphids, the potato leaf hoppers, the spider mites, the weevils, you'll kill all of that stuff, which is fine. But the beneficial stuff, when you kill that, then guess what comes back with a vengeance? All the shit that's trying to kill your plant. Same thing with the fungus. Okay, so a few years ago, cyst nematode was a big problem, right? Cyst nematode. Well, how do you cure cyst nematode, right? Well, I can tell you, with more nematodes, just not cyst nematodes. You need more nematodes. You need nematodes that eat the bad nematodes, the tardigrades and all those other things. And insecticides, neonicotinoids that are on your seed. Yeah, I'm really pissing in your vinegar, I know. It's not good, Once you kill those things, guess what? Thrives. The bad ones, not the good ones. The good ones, for every bad bug, whether it's a sucking, stinging, sucking insect, ones that gets into the veins of your soybeans or corn or anything, cereal, rust mite, anything that gets in there, though it takes literally 10,000 more to get those 10,000 more of the beneficials just to get after that one evil mother scratcher that's tearing up your crop. So when you kill them all, the bad ones come back, and then you're in this like hamster wheel of chemical application. Round and around and around you go. Oh shit, I've got white mold. Let's hit it with fungicide. Oh shit, I've got potato leaf hoppers. Let's hit it with an insecticide. Oh shit, I've got weevils. Around and around you go. Tar leaf spot, frog eye, all these crazy things that you're getting in your crops could easily be dealt with if you just knocked off all the spraying of your fungicides and insecticides. Beneficials, you can buy them. You can buy beneficials. Bugs in a jug is food for what's there. Take what you have and build on it. Don't try to reintroduce or introduce something that isn't natural in your soil. And when you go down the regen ag rabbit hole and you start to learn and understand what I'm talking about, then you'll be like, that one lonely farmer, he's not as dumb as he looks. So you ever notice that when you have, say, your garden, if you've got a garden or your wife has a garden or whatever, you ever notice that when you miss a couple of tomatoes out in the garden, or you pull your tomato plants out and you throw them in the compost heap, and a couple of tomatoes or whatever, pumpkins or whatever grow up, watermelons, they grow up out of that, and you're like, wow, volunteers, great. You ever notice how them things grow? Like way better than the stuff that you bought it from Burpees or Gurneys or wherever else, Shumways. You ever notice that? There's a reason for it. You see, those volunteers, they were grown in the soil that they came back up in. And those particular seeds have a relationship with what's in your soil, with the type of fungus that's in your soil, the type of bacteria that's in your soil, and it knows what's there, and that bacteria and fungus knows what that seed is. They have they imprint on one another. So when you get, say, seed that was grown in Iowa, and you bring it here to New Jersey and you stick it in the ground, sure, it grows. It's fine, works good. But it doesn't grow as well as, say, that volunteer plant that came up from your compost heap and is now taking over your garden. Like if it's a pumpkin, that thing will grow like 1,000 times better. It knows. They know. It's more in depth or in tune with what's around it, its surrounding, its weather patterns. It's, everything is connected. It's that symbiont circle they talk about in Star Wars. That is real, and it is true. So, yeah, when you spray constantly, you will always spray constantly. When you take off more than you're putting back, then you will continue to degrade your soil. Plowing, I'm not going to say don't do it. I'm just going to say read about it first before you go ahead and do it. Yes, you can get away with no-till. You can do no-till year after year after year and still be in a worse shape than you would if you plowed it every year and worked that ground. You need to do cover crops. Cover crops, cover crops, cover crops. If you're no-tilling, get a living root in the ground. You don't need a clean field for spring in the spring before you plant anything. Plant through that living cover. You plant through that living cover, feed that living cover. Because here's what's going to happen, and I can take you out in the field and I can show you. Corn that was planted by me, long season corn, that's planted by myself, and corn that was planted by my neighbor who worked the ground and planted his corn. His corn is dead, stone cold dead. It's ready to go. It's drying down. Mine is not drying down. I can guarantee you I used a lot less nitrogen than what he did. I can guarantee you I used it, well, to be quite honest with you, I used, what did I use? 40 units of potassium, potash. That's it. 40 units on the corn. Everything else, nothing. Just nitrogen. That's it. I used cover crops. I sprayed liquid nitrogen onto my cover crops a week or so ahead of planting. And why did I do that? I did that so that cover crop would pull that nitrogen up into itself. It doesn't get it all, but it pulls that nitrogen up. Then you plant through that cover crop, wait a few days, kill it. Once it dies, it takes a little bit, but it starts to break down. And as the summer months go on and that plant is breaking down, you get into about mid-August, get a couple of rains in mid-August when all that cover crop is breaking down, you'll flush the nitrogen out of it and it'll go right up into the reproductive side of that corn plant. And that's what I've got right now. I've got really green stalks. And the reason I have really green stalks, even on the 97-day corn, 95-day corn, isn't because I planted it late, because I didn't. I planted it in May. The first corn I planted was May 9 or 10. Might have been the 10th. May 9th or 10th. That damn corn is still green as hell. It's green. I mean, it's dying back now. The ear is dead and the husk is loosening up, but it's still, the stalk is still green. Why is that? Because the nitrogen, even though I only put, what did I put on? 150 units of nitrogen to start, and I came back in after the drought because we weren't certain that the nitrogen was even there because the corn all turned yellow, and the remedy for yellow corn that has too much water and not able to pick up its nutrients is to throw nitrogen on. So I ended up, I think, about 200 units of nitrogen on, which was way too much nitrogen. Way too much. I'm sure there's some guys out there saying, well, I put 300 units of nitrogen on. Well, you can do that. That's fine. What you need is a nitrogen storage facility, which is your cover crop. Now, the neighbor up the road that has corn in And I watched him put the fertilizer to this thing, to this corn. His is stone cold dead. He ran out of nitrogen at the end of his reproductive stage of his corn, whereas my corn was pulling that damn nitrogen up from the decaying cover crop and pumping it into that plant, putting it into the ear, keeping that thing alive. Boron and zinc were big helpers as well. And I can't wait to get that damn combine in the field and get a good dry sample to see what my test weight is, because I got a pretty good idea that my test weight is well above 56 pounds. Last year I struggled to get and maintain 56 pounds. Most of my corn went 54, 55. It was terrible. Not as bad as Millennial Farmers, though. He was 52 and he was happy. I'm like, man, they'd reject us for that. But no, I suspect that our corn is going to test somewhere closer to 60, or, I'd be happy with 57, 58. 60 would be, I'd be ecstatic. The best I've done was 62 pounds when I was younger. 62 pound test weight, and it all went to the dog food plant. They want that heavy corn. So we'll see what a bushel weighs when I get it in the combine. I got a little tester there, and we'll see how it is. And then the first few loads to the mill, we'll know. We'll just know. And that's where you make bushels per acre, is in test weight. You get a pound above 56. You get 57, 58, 59, 60, 61 bushel test weight. So just say you get 5 pounds per bushel more. You take 5 pounds per bushel over a 200,000 bushel crop at 56. You take, I'm not saying I'm going to get 5 pounds, but we'll just say 200,000, and we'll times that by 5. That's 1,000,000 pounds, and we divide that by 56, and that's 17,000 more bushel just in test weight. And that equals a lot. You take 17,000, almost 18. Let's keep numbers straight. We'll do 18 on a 5 pound. 18, 1, 2, 3, and we times that by, right now I think we are at 512, 5.12. That's a $92,000 increase just in test weight. I don't have $92,000 in zinc, boron, secret sauce, liquid fish. I don't have that much in there. And if you're not using liquid fish, I'm going to tell you what it is. It's liquid fish. It's pureed, digested, liquefied fish, whole fish, like feeder fish that they, invasive fish that they puree, and it is full, and I mean full, of calcium. You use that calcium. Plants love calcium. Calcium in a plant is like steroids. It opens up the channels and the neurons and everything that go on inside that plant and allows it to just thrive. You'll put on heavier test weight. You'll put on bigger beans, bigger kernels, deeper kernels. Calcium, calcium, calcium. So this year I used liquid fish. It's expensive. It's not cheap at all, but it's a hell of a lot cheaper than, say, 2 ton of lime to the acre and a pop-up 3912 pop-up fertilizer that you have to put on, like, with all the equipment and shit. You can put this right over the seed, band it right in the trench, so that when that seed says, hello, it's time to grow, it's got everything it needs with liquid fish, my secret sauce, my zinc, boron I put on ahead of time and after. I did 2 doses of boron. Just not a lot, but enough to keep it going. So, yeah, that's what we did. I dosed the boron when I sprayed my burn down. And, people were, the guys up the fertilizer going, didn't you just put 2 pounds of boron on, or whatever the hell it is? I said, yeah, 2 pounds of boron. I said, I could do 7 pounds of boron. You undercut me. I said, so we're going to do 4 pounds of boron. I think it's 4 pounds to the acre. That's what I put on. Boron is very soluble. It goes away. So I think that it made a huge difference. And when I pull my soil tests, I'll know. I'm really seriously considering getting one of those soil probes that does it automatically. It's very expensive. It's probably $10,000 or $12,000. I don't know what it is. But when you're spending thousands of dollars a year doing soil testing already, isn't it better to know? And then I can put that into, my practices as to, well, I don't need boron. I don't need it. Oh, I got too much zinc. I don't have enough zinc. I can do that. Micronutrient in the secret sauce. We're good. So anyways, I've talked for 40 minutes, and I'm sure you guys have thrown a brick at the TV or whatever it is you're watching right now, if you're even listening at all. If not, well, I think I really should do one of these things and get some other farmers involved and turn it into a podcast and see how that goes. It should work, but, there's not too many farmers around. I'd have to do the traveling farmer show. But anyways, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it and have a nice day. I will post this on my channel.